Hello, you. Welcome to a new deep dive.
Bye there.
Today, we're exploring the story behind Mother's Day. A day that, well, many of you probably know or celebrate.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll look at how this special day got started and how it's changed over time. We're going from, really old traditions right up to how different countries mark it today.
Exactly. And we've got some really fascinating info here that takes us all the way from ancient celebrations to the holiday we know now.
Right.
Our goal really is to understand the key beginnings of Mother's Day and, see how those early ideas connect or maybe don't connect to what we do now.
It's a holiday most people
Yeah.
are aware of, so digging into its history might give us all a new perspective on, well, a familiar tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this then. It seems the idea of honoring mothers is something humans have done for a really long time.
Oh, yeah. Ages.
Looking at our information, we can see roots going way back to ancient Greece. So what did they actually do to celebrate mothers back then?
Well, what's interesting is that even, way back then, people recognized how important mothers were. The Greeks had this yearly spring festival.
In spring, okay.
Yeah, specifically to honor maternal goddesses. One of the big ones was Rhea.
Rhea, right? Wife of Cronus, mother of Zeus, and all those main gods.
That's the one, mother of many of their most significant deities. So this idea of a powerful mother figure, it was really central to their religious celebration.
So a whole festival just for mother goddesses.
Yeah.
Then the Romans, did they have something similar? Sources mention that.
Yes, they did. The ancient Romans also had a spring festival, this one called Hilaria.
Hilaria. Sounds cheerful.
Yeah. It was dedicated to Cybele, who was also a mother goddess figure. And this started a very long time ago, like around 250 BC.
Wow.
Yeah, so, middle of the Roman Republic, way back.
That really takes us back. So what were these Roman celebrations actually like? Were they similar to the Greek ones?
This festival for Cybele seems quite elaborate. It happened around mid-March, the Ides of March, actually.
Oh, the Ides of March. Famous date.
Right, and it lasted for 3 days. Our information talks about offerings at her temple, parades, games, even masquerades, people wearing costumes.
That's like quite a party.
It sounds like it was a very intense celebration. Actually, the sources mention that at one point followers of Cybele were actually banned from Rome because of how intensely they celebrate.
Banned. Seriously.
Yeah,
That really shows how important these mother goddesses were to them, I guess.
definitely.
So these ancient festivals, they were focused on these powerful female figures, these goddesses. How did that idea eventually connect to honoring, our own mothers?
Well, if you look at the bigger picture, the basic idea is still there, right? It's about recognizing the fundamental importance of mothers, of motherhood.
Okay.
Even though these ancient celebrations were for goddesses, they show us that very early on, society saw the role of mothers as, significant, worthy of special attention.
Right.
So it kind of sets a historical precedent, you could say, for having specific times to acknowledge that really important role in society.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's jump forward in time a bit then. Our sources also talk about early Christian traditions and something called Mothering Sunday in the UK. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, sure. So in early Christianity, there was a special day. It was observed on the fourth Sunday before Easter during Lent.
Fourth Sunday of Lent, okay.
And this day was primarily to honor the Virgin Mary, Jesus' mother. But what's interesting is that in England, over time, the meaning sort of broadened.
How so?
It expanded to include honoring all mothers, not just Mary. And that's where the name Mothering Sunday comes from.
Mothering Sunday. Oh, okay, that sounds a bit closer to the Mother's Day we know. When did that tradition really get established in England?
Well, the history we're talking about here for Mothering Sunday goes back to the 1600s.
Wow, 1600.
Yeah. And it was always celebrated on that fourth Sunday of Lent. The tradition involved going to your mother church, the main church of the area, but then also children would bring small gifts, flowers, that kind of thing, to their own mothers.
Ah, okay. Showing their love and appreciation.
Exactly.
Flowers and gifts. That does sound familiar to how many people celebrate Mother's Day now.
It does, yeah. And something particularly interesting was that employers back then, they often gave servants and apprentices, workers who lived away from home.
Right.
They gave them permission to actually go home that day to visit their mothers.
Really? So it was recognized as a day for family connection.
Yeah, a specific time for families to be together. And the traditional gifts, besides flowers, included this special kind of fruit cake or pastry called a simnel.
A simnel cake. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's quite specific to that tradition. And we see similar kinds of traditions popping up in other parts of Europe, too, like in what used to be Yugoslavia.
So Mothering Sunday sounds like it has a pretty clear connection to our modern Mother's Day, at least in spirit. But the information says it kind of faded out and then came back. What happened there?
That's right. By the 1800s, the 19th century, the tradition of celebrating Mothering Sunday had largely, well, faded away. It wasn't as common.
Why?
It's not entirely clear, probably changing social patterns, but it saw a revival, a comeback after World War II.
Oh, interesting. After the war.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this comeback happened partly because American soldiers who were stationed in the UK brought their own newer Mother's Day traditions with them.
Ah, the American influence.
Exactly. And also, businesses saw an opportunity. They started promoting sales around this time, which definitely helped bring it back into common practice.
Right. So even in its return, you can kind of see the beginnings of that commercial side creeping in.
Definitely. Even back then.
Okay, interesting. So while Mothering Sunday was doing its thing in the UK, there were also efforts happening over in America to create a special day for mothers. Let's talk about some of those early movements. We hear about Julia Ward Howe.
Right, Julia Ward Howe. She was a really influential woman in the 19th century, an activist, a writer, a poet, most famous for writing the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh, that Julia Ward Howe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in 1872, she suggested that the U.S. should have an official Mother's Day. But her idea was quite specific. She proposed June 2nd, and she wanted it to be a day dedicated to peace.
A Mother's Day for peace. That's a really different angle than what we have now.
It really was. Back in 1870, she'd written this Mother's Day proclamation in Boston, basically urging women to unite against war.
Wow.
And she actually started observing a Mother's Peace Day on the second Sunday in June in Boston. She promoted this idea for years.
So she really campaigned for it.
She did. But obviously her original focus on peace and the June day eventually got replaced by the Mother's Day we celebrate now in May.
Okay. So how is pushing for a Mother's Day for peace? Then we also learn about Anne Reeves Jarvis. What was her contribution?
Anne Reeves Jarvis, another key figure, also in the 19th century. Before the Civil War, she helped start these Mother's Day work clubs in West Virginia.
Work clubs, what did they do?
They focused on teaching mothers in the community about childcare, sanitation, basically improving family health.
Practical stuff.
Very practical. And what's remarkable is that after the Civil War, these same clubs became a unifying force. They helped to bring people together in a region that was still really divided by the war.
How did they do that?
Well, in 1868, she organized something called Mother's Friendship Day.
Mother's Friendship Day.
Yeah, the goal was explicitly to encourage reconciliation between former Union and Confederate soldiers and their families, using motherhood as common ground.
Wow, using that shared experience of motherhood to heal divisions. That's a really powerful idea.
It really is.
And our sources also mentioned a few other people, right? Early supporters.
Yeah, a few others pop up. There's Juliet Calhoun Blakely, who apparently inspired a local Mother's Day in Michigan back in the 1870s. And Mary Talsacine and Frank Herring.
Frank Herring.
Yeah, Herring. He worked to organize Mother's Day in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. Sometimes you even see him called the father of Mother's Day because he was pushing for it pretty early on.
Okay, so it sounds like there were quite a few people in America around that time thinking, hey, we need a special day for mothers.
Yeah, the idea was definitely bubbling up in different places.
But the person we most often connect with Mother's Day, the one credited with founding it, is Anna Jarvis, Anne Reeves Jarvis's daughter.
That's right. Anna Jarvis, she's the one really recognized as the founder of Mother's Day in the U.S.
Oh.
And interestingly, she never married or had children herself.
Really?
Yeah, but she's known as the mother of Mother's Day. Her inspiration came directly from her own mother, Anne Reeves Jarvis. Her mother had often said she wished there could be a day to honor all mothers, living and deceased, just for everything they do.
So it was very personal for Anna. A daughter trying to fulfill her mother's wish.
Exactly. It seems like a very personal motivation. When her mother died in 1905, Anna Jarvis decided to really dedicate herself to making that wish happen.
Right.
She apparently felt that Americans were, maybe starting to neglect or forget how important their mothers were, and she wanted a specific day to honor them.
So how did she start?
Well, her first big public action was sending white carnations.
Carnations again.
Yep, her mother's favorite flower. She saw them as a symbol of pure love. She sent 500 of them to a church service in Grafton, West Virginia, in memory of her mother in 1908. That's often seen as the first sort of unofficial Mother's Day celebration.
White carnations.
Yeah.
That's a symbol that really stuck, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Still strongly linked to Mother's Day today.
It absolutely has. And after that initial service, Anna Jarvis and her supporters just started this huge letter writing campaign
To who?
to influential people, politicians, businessmen, church leaders, asking them to support making Mother's Day an official national holiday.
And it worked.
It did. Her hard work paid off. By 1911, Mother's Day was already being celebrated in almost every single state.
Wow, that's pretty fast progress.
Yeah. And then the big moment came on May 8th, 1914. President Woodrow Wilson signed a joint resolution, a law officially designating the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day.
May 8th, 1914. So that was it, the official start of the modern American holiday.
That was the key moment, yes. Anna Jarvis was really the driving force behind getting it officially recognized.
But her original vision for how it should be celebrated, it was quite simple and personal, wasn't it?
Very much so. Her original idea wasn't about big gifts or anything. It was meant to be a really personal celebration between mothers and their families.
Like what?
Like, she imagined people wearing a white carnation to honor their mother, maybe a red one if their mother was still living, and visiting their mother or going to church together. It was supposed to be a day filled with sincere, heartfelt sentiment.
Okay. But, as we all know, the way Mother's Day often looks today, it's quite different. Our sources definitely talk about how quickly the holiday became commercialized.
Oh, yeah. This is where the story takes a turn. And, well, from Anna Jarvis's point of view, it became a very disappointing development.
How so?
Well, as soon as Mother's Day became a national holiday, businesses jumped on it. Florists, greeting card companies, candy makers, department stores, they all saw a massive opportunity.
To make money, basically.
Exactly. They started advertising heavily, pushing people to buy gifts for their mothers. Even things like long-distance phone calls spiked massively on Mother's Day.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Mother's Day now without thinking about flowers and cards and maybe brunch reservations.
Right, and that commercial explosion is exactly what made Anna Jarvis so upset, even angry.
She didn't like it.
She hated it. I mean, while she initially worked with the floral industry to help promote the day.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, early on. But by the 1920s, she had completely turned against how commercial it had become. She publicly denounced it. She started urging people not to buy the flowers, the pre-printed cards, the candies.
Wait, she actually told people not to buy stuff for Mother's Day. That's pretty countercultural for a holiday founder.
She absolutely did. She launched this open campaign against what she called the profiteers, who were exploiting the holiday sentiment.
Yeah.
She criticized candy companies, florists. She even went after charities that used Mother's Day in their fundraising appeals. And she got really litigious about it.
Litigious? Like lawsuits?
Yes, she filed numerous lawsuits against groups that used the name Mother's Day, trying to protect its original meaning or maybe regain control. She ended up spending most of her personal inheritance on these legal battles.
Oh, wow. That's dedication, but also sounds draining.
Completely. And by the time she died in 1948, she was totally disillusioned. She had disowned the holiday she created. She even actively lobbied the government to try and get it removed from the official calendar.
That is such a sad, ironic ending to her story. The mother of Mother's Day ended up hating what it became.
It really is.
And that quote we have from her about greeting cards,
Yeah.
that really sums up her feelings, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty blunt. She famously called greeting cards a poor excuse for the letter you are too lazy to write.
Ouch.
Yeah. It just shows how much she valued that genuine personal expression over, buying something convenient.
It really makes you think about how holidays can evolve, sometimes drifting pretty far from their original purpose.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously Mother's Day didn't disappear. It's celebrated in many, many countries around the world today, but it's not always on the same day or celebrated in exactly the same way, is it?
No, not at all. While that second Sunday in May, the U.S. date, is very common internationally now, many countries do celebrate Mother's Day on different dates, sometimes linked to their own historical tradition.
Like what? Any examples?
Sure. In France, for instance, our information mentions that a flower-shaped cake is often part of the family meal.
Okay.
In the U.S., as we've mentioned, it's still one of the busiest days of the year for restaurants. And carnations, thanks to Anna Jarvis, are still a significant symbol in many places.
And what about the UK? They still have their Mothering Sunday, separate from the U.S. date.
Yes. The UK still celebrates Mothering Sunday, usually in March, sticking to that fourth Sunday of Lent tradition we talked about earlier.
Okay.
While many people in the UK might casually call it Mother's Day, it's important to remember its origins are distinct from the American holiday, even if some of the ways people celebrate gifts, cards, family time look similar now.
Right. And the simnel cake? Still a thing.
Sometimes, yeah, that simnel cake is still associated with Mothering Sunday for some families there.
Okay. And the sources give us some other cool global examples, too.
They do. Like in Thailand, Mother's Day is celebrated in August, and it's linked to the Queen's birthday.
Oh, interesting. Royal connection.
Yeah. And in Ethiopia, they have this multi-day festival in the fall called Antrusht. It involves big feasts, singing, dancing, all to honor mothers.
A multi-day festival. That sounds amazing.
Doesn't it? And Japan originally celebrated it in March on the Empress's birthday, but now they've adopted the second Sunday in May, too. Red carnations are traditional gifts there, apparently especially significant after World War II as a way to comfort mothers who lost sons.
Wow, that adds another layer of meaning. And Mexico.
Mexico celebrates Dia de las Madres, Mother's Day, always on May 10th. It's a huge deal there. Big family meals, often out at restaurants, and serenades with mariachi bands are common.
Mariachi bands. Nice. So, okay, well, the core idea of honoring mothers is pretty universal across these.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
specific customs, the timing, it really varies quite a bit depending on where you are.
Exactly. But that common thread is there, setting aside a special time to recognize and thank mothers and, other mother figures in our lives.
Right.
And it's worth pointing out, too, that even in the U.S., amidst all the commercialism Anna Jarvis hated, Mother's Day has also sometimes been used as a platform for activism. Well, like Coretta Scott King leading a march for marginalized women and children on Mother's Day in 1968, or women's groups in the 70s using the day to raise awareness about issues like equal rights and childcare needs. So it can have that dimension, too.
Okay. So, to kind of wrap this all up, we've seen this journey, right, from ancient goddess festivals and early Christian traditions like Mothering Sunday to this very specific American movement, spearheaded by people like Julia Ward Howe with her peace focus, and especially Anna Jarvis, who fought so hard to get that official day recognized.
Yeah, it's quite a story. And it's got this really interesting, maybe even poignant tension at its heart.
The tensions between.
Between Anna Jarvis's original vision, that heartfelt, personal, simple day of appreciation, and the massive commercial reality that Mother's Day quickly became and largely still is in many places.
Yeah, that conflict is fascinating. It really makes us think about how holidays change and what they mean to us versus what maybe they were intended to mean.
Definitely food for thought.
Absolutely. So as you, our listener, think about Mother's Day, maybe consider how all these different cultures and different times in history have chosen to show appreciation for mothers. What can we learn from, the goddess festivals, or Mothering Sunday, or even Anna Jarvis's complicated legacy? And perhaps think about how you and your family celebrate. Is there a way to balance, the flowers and the brunch with that genuine personal appreciation that Anna Jarvis valued so much?
Yeah, finding that personal meaning within the modern traditions.
Exactly. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today into the history of Mother's Day.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.